TLC Network here with another unboxing, this time coming from the company MOVO. And this is MOVO's wireless lavalier dual lavalier system with 2 transmitters and 1 receiver. And generally these are usually used for mobile setups for cameras, DSLRs, and other situations where you don't have a large footprint to be able to play around with large formats of gear, especially if you don't have wall power or anything like that in a stationary position. So if you're running around in your mobile, these are battery, they're wireless, and you only have 1 receiver to be able to have to deal with. So you don't have multiple inputs running into a camera, you just have 1 receiver to be able to handle both microphones and tons of frequencies. Because this is UHF, so you have much better reliability, you have better range. In fact, they're promising up to 330 feet distance, which is always good. So this makes it comparable to some of the other brands out there like Ceramonic, to brands like Shure or Sennheiser. And you have 2 groups of up to 48 frequencies between 2 A and B, the 2 lavaliers, so you have plenty enough frequencies to pretty much sort your way through. And for any typical given situation where you only might run into any issues if you're in like incredibly wireless heavy traffic spots such as convention floors and so forth. And what we're going to do today is we're going to open up this box and we're going to see what it looks like, see what it comes with, see what's in there, and then we'll give it a good test to see what it sounds like. But first, let's go ahead and see what's inside the box. Now you do get a cool carrying case, a hard shell carrying case, which is important. So you don't have to find a Pelican case or anything else to store all of your goods in. It comes with one, and it's small, it's compact, it's easy, it's portable. It's not like if you're familiar with wireless audio, it's not like some of the Shure or Sennheiser static position kind of units that need to be plugged into the wall that aren't mobile. Those come in much heavier cases and bulkier cases, where this, you just have the 2, again, transmitters and the 1 receiver. Everything's nice and small, so you don't need a huge case, and they deliver that with a just nice hard shell case here that's gonna keep your gear safe while you're traveling between gigs. Now, opening it up, it does look like everything's neatly laid out inside of the case. You have all 3 units here, plus you have your accessories. You have an operating instruction manual here, as well as some, let's see, I was gonna say some stickers. You have 1 sticker in case you wanna brag about the fact that you bought a MOVO product. For the accessories and everything else, typically a setup like this is gonna be pretty basic. You're gonna have your 2, again, transmitters, you're gonna have your 1 receiver, and you're gonna have your typical cables that allow you to connect this to your cameras with. And taking a look at this, you have your 3.5 millimeter to 3.5 millimeter here, stereo TRS cable. And this is going to be for running between the receiver and your camera, DSLR or video camera, whatever your setup may be. If it takes 3.5 millimeter, this is going to be your cable that's going to be used for that. If it is a larger camera, like some of the ones we use XLR inputs, they do provide you with that as well. It's going to be dropped down into a mono feed, but you at least have a stereo TRS to a single XLR connection here for putting into that camera with. And then you have some smaller accessories here in this bag. You have 2 just clothing clips for the cables. This is going to be for the lavaliers that are running up into the speaker's shirt. And actually, I take that back. You have 4. So it looks like they really have you covered. And the same thing applies to these, which are your small little windscreens for the lavalier, like you see here. You have 4 when you only have 2 lavaliers, so that means you got 2 plus 2 extras, just in case you lose anything. And then for the receiver, they also give you a cold shoe mount adapter that's going to it. So that way it hooks onto the top of a DSLR or on the side of your rig, whatever the case may be. Typically, you're going to be using this to be able to, get it to attach. And then some situations, if you're using a much larger rig that doesn't have a cold shoe mount, then usually what we do in our experience is we take gaff tape, wrap it around the tripod that the camera system is sitting on or something, and just use the gaff tape. Put gaff tape on both sides so there's no sticking side that's affecting this, and then you just slide onto it, so it's kind of like just a self-made belt. And then you have your lavaliers. You got 2 lavaliers here, and the lavaliers look to be your typical length here. The microphones here, they're not too small, but they're not too big either, so they're pretty decent, good balanced sides. Once you put the windscreen onto the lavalier, they're all pretty much the same size anyways, if you can tell. The transmitters are, it's an all plastic body, it looks like. It's very lightweight, until you put the batteries in at least. It's your typical style where you have just the pinch to pull out tray here on the side. You put 2 AA batteries in there, pop it in, turn it on, and you're ready to go. Battery life, we're not going to be too sure about until we actually test this out. A lot of these more affordable series, usually the battery life isn't always as good, but then again, some of the big brand stuff coming from Shure and some of these other companies, they're not really that good either. So we do notice that a lot of these alternative brands that are out there and available to you that are more affordable, people see that and the battery life may not be as good as they're expecting, and they really focus on that as a point, and really, you know, they don't take into account that Shure and Sennheiser and some of these other brands that we use in these industries, they also do not have the greatest battery life. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Some of their newer stuff is fantastic that companies like Shure have come up with, you know, but in the past, they've had just okay battery life. So that's something to keep in mind, that you know, the battery life you get from this may not be the best in the world, but it's not going to be much different from what you're going to get with some of these other bigger brands. But the design of the lav pack is pretty much the same of what you'd expect from a lav pack. You know, it's rectangular in design, as you can see, and has a clip so you can hook it onto your belt, just like the one I'm wearing here. You have 3 buttons across the front here, which is going to be able to maneuver around the menu with, plus a middle button here for controlling, pulling up the menu and everything. So this is where you're going to be able to set your frequencies and volume and things like that. And you have a line in, you have a mic out, and you have a power button. And that is incredibly useful right there. It has a line in, you know, so it plays with some of your function or your capable functionality of this device in terms of its usage in any given situation, no matter what industry you're in. So having a line in is quite useful. A lot of these don't have a line in, they just have the mic in, and that's it. So this allows you to plug in some other things into this and use this wirelessly to be able to get to the receiver. And that is a big plus, especially since you're buying into an affordable system like this. So it's really exciting to see something like that. And again, of course, you have 2 transmitters, so 2 transmitters. Again, each of these have up to 48 channels to play around with. So a total of 96, if I can count right, 96 channels to be able to play with. And they tell you, but I mean, they're sharing the same channels, you know. So again, what you're getting is between 556.71 and 595.66 megahertz. And so you got a pretty decent window there of frequencies to play with. Again, it's going to get you through most common situations, especially if you're doing something outside. If, say you're just doing on a selfie stick or something, you're just a vlogger or something and running around with this, you're going to be fine. If you're at home, you're going to be fine. The only time you're going to run into situations is if you're at a major, you know, convention floors and things like that, where there's a lot of wireless activity going around. Like our teams have to face that a lot when we're at places like E3, CES, you know, where it's just, you're competing against just thousands of other people, and there's just, everybody wants to be on wireless, and that's when you realize how limited you really are on frequencies out there, thanks to all the frequencies that the government has auctioned off. But for something like this, the average consumer is going to be absolutely well taken care of, assuming that it sounds good, of course. So put these back for now and go over to the transmitter. Now the transmitter has 2 antennas instead of 1 because, of course, channel A, channel B, each one is for the other lav pack. And you have a similar setup on the device itself. They moved, since you have an extra antenna here, they moved the power button to the side. That's it. They also have 2 connections here at the top. Only instead of inputs, these are outputs. So you have one which is going to be for headphones, so that way the person behind the camera, if your camera doesn't already have, or your system doesn't already have an active monitoring function, or you just want to hear directly just what the mic is hearing before it hits any of your other gear, if you're trying to troubleshoot or anything like that, you have a headphone jack here so you can listen to what the receiver's hearing from the 2 transmitters directly. And then you have a line out, and that's what the one cable here, the 3.5 millimeter to 3.5 millimeter, is going to make use of going to your camera, or your 3.5 millimeter to XLR for going to a larger camera model. But again, 3 buttons in the front, you know, so for the middle one for pulling up the menu, these for changing options and different parts of the menu, and the battery tray is exactly the same on the side with 2 AA batteries. So everything that it comes with is everything you need for the most part. Just about everybody's going to be taken care of here, plus you have extra parts. Again, we like the fact it has a line in, that's a big plus, but none of that matters if it doesn't sound good. So let's go ahead and see what it sounds like. So now what you're listening to is the MOVO WMX-20 dual UHF wireless, or dual channel, excuse me, wireless mic system. This is untouched and unedited. Outside of our guys putting the videos together and everything, but what we're going to do is we're not touching the audio, not touching the audio. So what you're hearing right now is exactly what our camera is hearing. This is coming directly from the microphone to its receiver and into the camera. We are not going to edit it in post, so that way you can hear exactly what you are working with. This is the raw sound coming from the MOVO WMX-20 dual UHF dual channel wireless mic system. So there you go. This is what it sounds like, and as you can tell, it's not bad at all. It's pretty good. For the price, it's $199. So you take into account how much this stuff costs somebody in the industry, or any industry really. It's, you know, when you're investing into something like this coming from companies like Shure or Sennheiser, you're spending hundreds of dollars. You know, and in some cases, you know, you're post $1,000, especially for a dual system like this. And then your average, you know, for, you know, a lot of sole proprietor, people like photographers and videographers that are doing like small interviews, weddings and things like that, they're going to typically spend around $500-600 on the system from companies like Rode and Sennheiser. In this case, you're spending $200. That's it. You know, so really balance that in terms of the quality of audio you're getting between the two systems and tell, you know, what you're getting for, you know, what you're paying. And I mean, it appears to be pretty decent. Again, there's going to be some editing and post you're going to want to play with, you know, but it's pretty good for the price. $200 for a 2 lavalier system going to a single receiver. But there you have it. Again, MOVO WMX-20, $199. So tell us what you think in the comments below. Also subscribe, because, you know, we like people subscribing to us and following us, because we have an unlimited amount of content to come in the future, and you can just absorb every bit of it as it comes out. So definitely subscribe, but use the comment section and tell us what you think. What does it sound like to you? Do you like it? Would you get it? Do you have one? You know, use the comments, share your opinions, and subscribe. But we'll also have some links in the description, so that way you can find all of this online. And then, of course, we're going to have a review about this later on at POCnetwork.net once we've had a little bit more time to play around with this, because this is fresh. We just cracked this out of the case. You know, so give us some time, a couple days to play and have fun with this. We'll have a story about what we think in the end and how much work goes into post-edit or anything like that to really get the sound that we're looking for. But, I mean, as you can see, this is competing against a Shure I'm also wearing here, which you're not hearing anymore. You know, it sounds pretty good. For what you get. So $200, you get everything you need. It's a pretty decent sounding mic. We'll have a link in the description, as well as a link to the review once it's available. But as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. If you want to stay on top of all the latest and greatest, and or at least the gadgets we cover, remember to subscribe right here. Subscription button. Click it. You're going to want to. There's lots of videos, interviews, previews, all sorts of stuff. Button. Click it.